Hello everybody, thanks for watching. This is Jake from Green Hills Public Library in the Youth Department with video 1 of the Ukulele 101 video series. This video we're mostly going to go over the basics of the ukulele and a little bit of how to start playing. So here we're looking at our ukulele setup. You've got the headstock, which has your tuning pegs and tuning knobs. That's how you're going to control the pitch of each string and make sure it's in tune. Below that you'll see the nut that helps hold the strings in place and make sure they don't slide all over the place. You've got your fretboard with all your different frets there, and that's how you're going to play the different notes. We'll talk about that in a little bit. After that you've got the body and sound hole of your ukulele. That's going to help make it a little louder. Attached to your body you'll see the bridge or saddle, and that's where your strings tie down onto the body. So next we're going to take a closer look at the fretboard. Now on your fretboard you'll see the first fret on there is fret number 1. So when you're looking at chords or some sort of tabs, we can talk about those later as well. 0 means you're not putting your finger on the string at all. 0 means that's an open string. 1, you're going to start with the first fret there, and you can count up from there. 1, 2, 3. This one has 15. I think our ukuleles have 12 frets. So that's just the amount of notes you have for each string. Now we'll look at this blue dot here and talk about that. What this is trying to show us is where we want our finger when we're putting our finger on the fret. So this would be putting your finger on the 3rd fret. You can see you don't want to be right on the fret. If you're on the fret, you might have some issues with the note not ringing out or some buzzing. And if you're too far away, you might have similar issues, or it might sound out of tune. So we want to make sure we're close to the fret, but not on top of the fret. And I'll have some video clips to help illustrate that. Next up, we're going to talk about the different strings on your ukulele. So if you're right-handed, when you're holding your ukulele, you're going to hold your neck in your left hand. The neck of your ukulele will be in your left hand, and your right hand will be the one to strum. So the string closest to you is your G string. The string furthest from you is your A string. So this will be important when we're tuning. We want to make sure that each note is tuned correctly. And if we go to the next step, an easy way to help remember which string is which is when you're looking at them. G, C, E, A, that corresponds with good children eat apples. There's a couple different ways to remember that. I like that one. I think it's easy. So when we're tuning, we want to remember good children eat apples. And so here we can see a couple different tuners. The one on the left is a clip-on tuner. You can get those online or from any sort of music store usually has something like this. These are nice because you can clip them on and it's going to be pretty accurate. The other one is a website called UkeBuddy, and that one uses your computer's microphone to help tune your ukulele. There's other apps, and websites. There's plenty. If you find one you like better that offers better, options, feel free to use it. But these are a couple ones. The Snark tuner I've used, it works well, and UkeBuddy has been working well for me as well. So as long as we're tuning, that's the important thing. We want to make sure our ukulele stays in tune. That's going to help our ukulele sound better and help us make our strings last longer. Now next is a little note. Some people like to play with picks. I don't recommend it for a ukulele. I think it can be a little rough on the strings, and I don't always think it sounds as good. But that's your choice. I just say when we're first starting to learn, I think it's helpful to go without a pick. Because generally you're going to use either your pointer finger or your second finger to strum. You can use your thumb, but I think that sounds better, and you don't need to carry around a pick. Now this picture is showing us somebody fretting, and the important thing here is, like I said, you can see their finger is just above that 3rd fret, but close enough to get the correct pitch. But the other thing I want to look at is this person's playing a chord. And so what's important to remember when we're playing chords is we want to make sure that we've got that nice round shape of your finger. Because otherwise, if you're too flat, if your fingers are flat against the fretboard, you might run into issues where one finger is actually blocking another string from being able to ring out. So when you're playing chords, you might not hear all the notes you're supposed to hear. So after that, I think it's going to be helpful to actually look at the ukulele. Now here's a view of the head of my ukulele. So we've got my tuners here, and then you've got your nut there holding the strings in place. Now on our tuners, if we look at them this way, if we turn them clockwise, that's going to tune your string down. If we go counterclockwise, the pitch will go up. So there we go. Same thing here. All right, so now that one's in tune. And if we flip it around, it's the same thing, but from the other side. So if I go clockwise, whoops, clockwise, I'm going down. Counterclockwise, I'm going to tune up. So it's important that when we're tuning, like I said, that we're checking and slowly turning our tuners. We don't want to go too fast, and we want to make sure that we're not spinning for too long before we check. Okay, so here we have Uke Buddy. Unfortunately, the computer screen is a little flickery. But if we turn on our microphone here, we'll see that Uke Buddy is trying to tune my voice. But if I play my ukulele, we'll see that my G string is in tune, my C string is in tune, my E string is in tune, and there we go, my A string is in tune. So they sound pretty good. Now, if I wasn't in tune, if I go ahead and turn my tuning knob down, so my G string is coming up as an F sharp. So my G string is low. So what I'll do is I'll play the note, and on my G string, I'm going to twist my tuning knob slowly and watch. All right, and I got there. So that's the key, is we want to go nice and slow, nice and steady. Keep plucking the string, because if we twist it too fast, we might break the string. And if we're not playing it consistently, we won't know how far we need to go before our string is in tune. So let's take a look at our body here. We've got our 4 strings, our sound hole, our bridge, or saddle. And let's talk about strumming real quick. So I talked about using your first finger, your second finger, or your thumb. So really, you're just kind of brushing the side of your finger, part of your fingernail across and coming back up. You're using your fingertip. So whatever feels more comfortable to you. I think the first finger is the easiest for me, but whatever works for you. You just want to get a nice, even motion. You don't want to be getting, you don't want to pull on the strings, because it'll start to sound snappy, and we don't always like that sound. So after we start getting our strumming motion, we can start looking at fretting. So one thing we'll have to cut in here is a C chord. So our C chord, we have an open G, open C, open E, and then on our string here, we're on the 3rd fret. So we'll count up 1, 2, 3. So your ring finger is the easiest one to do there. So you're going to take your ring finger, and just like I said, right above that fret, place it. You don't have to press too hard, and you can use your palm and your thumb against the neck to help press your finger up. So you're not pressing with your finger. You're putting your finger down on the fretboard and you're squeezing your hand a little bit to get it nice and tight, and it should ring out like that. If you're too much on the fret, you might hear some of that. It doesn't sound quite right. If I'm too far away, it's a little out of tune. So right in that sweet spot, that's where we want to be. And so if we start strumming again, we're playing a C chord. So that one's not too bad. One finger, one note, and you got a C chord. Now where it gets a little trickier is if we look at the F chord. Now F, you have to use 2 fingers, so you're going to use your second finger, your pointer finger, and your second finger is going to go all the way around here. So if you can see that, you want to make sure, we can see down that way, it's a little bit hard to show. You want your second finger to be on the 2nd fret here, but stay out of the way so all the other strings can ring. So it's the 2nd fret, then an open string, and then your pointer finger is going to go on the 1st fret on that 3rd string. And then again, you want to make sure you're not gripping too tight and you have space to have that last string stay open. Because if your hand's too tight, you'll hear, and that's our hand muting the string. So we want to make sure we round out those fingers. If we're too flat, you're going to hear those dead notes. You want to make sure your hand is coming around. Your knuckles here should be pretty high up. And that's your F chord. Sounds pretty good. So now what we're going to take a look at is, can we play that C and then switch from the C over to the F? So that's going to take some time, and that's where you'll practice. You want to be nice and slow, and you want to hear all 4 of your strings ringing out. Okay, so for the last thing in this video, we've covered the parts of the ukulele. We've covered some good practices with tuning, and we've covered some basic fretting and a couple chords. Finally, I want to go ahead and talk about, there's a packet that came with your ukulele. On the first page, it's got the parts of your ukulele and your string names. Second page has some chord charts. These are going to be helpful because not only do they show you what fret to put your finger on, but which finger to use. The numbers in the red circle are which finger. So 1 is your pointer finger, your second finger is labeled 2, your ring finger's 3, and then your pinky is 4. You're not using a 4 on any of those, but we can see on the C chord, you're going to use your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. So it's helpful to remember which fingers you're using, because it'll make it easier for switching different chords. Because if you look, A minor and F, the only difference is A minor, you're not putting your 1st finger on that 1st fret of the E string, and F you are. So all you need to do is move your pointer finger to change between those 2 chords. So that's a good thing to keep in mind and a good thing to practice. And we'll talk more about G, F, A minor in the next video, and really starting to switch between chords. For this week, I think it's important, just practice C, F. If you want to go ahead and try those other chords, go ahead. Try changing between all 4. Try strumming nice and slow, and just get used to moving your hand around the frets. Our next page in the packet is going to show you all the notes up the fretboard. So starting with G, C, E, and A on the open, all the way up to the 12th fret where it starts over again, and you see G, C, E, and A, if you're interested in knowing what notes are on the fretboard. The fourth page, you're going to see a more comprehensive list of chords. Again, we'll talk more about this next week, but there's a lot of different chords you can play, and there's even different ways to play certain chords. But we'll get to that next week. After that, we've got some simple songs that if you're interested in trying to practice switching between chords and playing along to a song, you can look at those. On our last page, what you'll see is a few tips. Now, unfortunately, we don't have cases for these ukuleles, but you have a box if you want to keep them in. It's important that we keep our ukuleles somewhere where they're safe, where they're not going to get stepped on, where they're not going to fall and break. And then under that is a URL for a website. And if you go to that website, you're going to see most of the information that I've talked about and is in your packet. But it's also got a couple other resources if you want to check out. Some helpful YouTube videos of walkthroughs on how to play different songs, and just other resources for practicing. I think that's where we'll end this first video. I hope it's helped you some. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always come and let me know or leave me an email. But for now, I think we will sign off.